Hey everybody, my name is Mike Nazaruk, and this is my first YouTube podcast of my amputee experience, which I've entitled BLINDSIDED Part 1. And yes, I am an above-knee amputee. I'll show you that right now, if you can see it. I guess you can. So, anyways. Now, I don't know, but perhaps some of you have seen my other podcasts about my situation on other social platforms. And if you are one of them, thank you very much for watching this podcast. Now, it was suggested to me to do a YouTube series of this ordeal. So I went back and edited them to be more up to date, and here we are today. And yes, this podcast is the first of my already established Normal Guy series to tell you all about what I've had to endure for the past 9 months. Now, I need to tell you all that my podcasts aren't full of glitzy music and other special effects, okay? I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So it goes without saying that I just want to go ahead and say that what I'm going to tell you about has been a heck of an experience for me. And it would be an understatement to tell you that I've been through the ringer. And I hope you stick around with me while I share this story with you, okay? So I guess I could start with the weekend of August 27th and 28th, 2022. Now, it seemed like an average August weekend to me, not too hot out for the last weekend before Labor Day weekend. It actually is pretty nice, actually. Now, on Saturday the 27th, I had to go to work at my part-time job at the hardware store 2 blocks from here. No big deal there. I worked there nearly every Saturday. But at that time during the week leading up to that weekend, I was feeling this kind of a dull, intermittent pain in my left calf, and sometimes in my left foot too. Now, I have felt these dull, intermittent pains from time to time during the previous several months, going back to like March or April of 2022. Now, I really didn't think too much about these pains because I was always tweaking this muscle or that and, lifting stuff at the hardware store and physically using myself, And that, along with regular aches and pains associated with being an active 64-year-old guy, it really didn't cause me to be in any kind of alarm, right? But then on this Saturday, the 27th, in the afternoon, these pains in my calf and left foot were a bit more intense than they had previously been. Now, I would sit down periodically at the store when I wasn't busy with customers and took some ibuprofen and waited. And it seemed to go away. I had a little bit of concern at that point, but it kind of drifted away, so I didn't make too big of a deal about it. Then came Sunday the 28th, a beautiful morning for me and my wife to walk to our church for Sunday services. It was only a block and a half away, and we've walked many times before. Plus, with Labor Day weekend being that next week, that only meant that fall and winter with the associated bad weather was just around the corner. And so we got to take advantage of what nice days were left, right? Well, while walking home from church, I'd say we were maybe about halfway or so. The pains in my calf and my left foot came on to me with a vengeance. I mean, really hurting bad. That pain felt like somebody was pounding nails or staples into my foot with a hammer or something. Kind of hard to describe. So we get home, and I have an hour and a half before I have to go to work at the hardware store. So I just sat down and took it easy for that time. Now, fortunately for me, it was a very slow day at the hardware store, and I was able to just sit around pretty much the whole afternoon and watch preseason football on TV and wait on a few people. With the pains gone because I was barely on my feet all afternoon, life was good once again and didn't bother me for the rest of the day. So then here we are, Monday, August 29th, a day that will forever be etched into my brain. Typical Monday morning, right? kind of nice out, a bit warmer than the previous 2 weekend days, and I was tasked that day to go to the supermarket. Now, it's not exactly my most favorite thing to do, but it was a necessary evil. It needed to be done. So the store I usually go to is huge. I mean, it's acres big, right? Now, I was about 3/4 done when the calf and foot pains came back and really hurting bad, just like they were when my wife and I were walking home from church the day before. So by the time I got home from the store, the pains eased up a bit, but not really a whole lot. And another bad thing was I had to go to work at the hardware store again at 4 o'clock for a whole 2.5 hours. And that wasn't going to help things at all. So within a half hour after getting there and being on my feet, the foot and calf pains were all of a sudden on a mission of destruction in my left leg. I mean, really killing me. The pain was to the point where it was actually nauseating me. And I was totally soaked with a cold sweat in 1 minute and burning up the next. And I was trying to sit down anywhere I could or whenever I could. My coworker noticed that I was having troubles and asked me if I was going to be okay. And I said, yeah, I'll be fine. So I only had to tolerate the pain for another half hour until the store closed. Well, I finally get home, okay? And my wife is just getting ready to go on her everyday walk. Now, she noticed right away that something wasn't right with me and offered to stay in case I needed to seek medical attention. But I told her, no, go ahead on your walk and I'll be okay. And I couldn't even eat any of the chicken thighs I baked before I went to work. I was hurting so bad I couldn't even think of eating. So I went up to bed to lie down for a bit. After about an hour, no dice. The foot and calf pain was just as intense as before. My wife came back from her walk, and I told her I was going to go to the emergency room at the hospital because I think something was seriously wrong here. And I said I could take myself, and actually went to an ER at a hospital in a town about 20 miles away from here, because I heard it was less of a wait getting into that ER as opposed to the one in my own city. Now, after a short wait and filling out the usual paperwork, the doctor did something called an ultrasound on my left foot and calf. It was basically a handheld probe that he ran over the skin on my foot and calf to listen to the blood flow and pulse. After he was done with the ultrasound, he told me straight out, you're going to have to go back into the hospital in your city because we don't really have a vascular department at this hospital to deal with the things that have to do with blood and circulation. Now, I then said, okay, so what does all that mean? And the doctor said, it means you've got some big time problems going on here, bud. And we can't handle this type of problem here at this hospital. Now, I was a bit taken aback by this proclamation, right? And he continued, I'm going to give you a folder with the testing information I gathered here, and you need to go to the ER at the hospital in your city and give them this folder. I said, well, okay, what am I supposed to tell them? That doctor then told me to tell them at the UPMC ER that I had been diagnosed with something called peripheral arterial disease with an ischemic limb, whatever the hell that is. So I left Nason Hospital and drove the 20-some miles into UPMC Altoona. It was a really warm, balmy August night outside, and I had the AC on low and the hard rock music on the Sirius XM in my truck. Now, when I got to the UPMC hospital emergency room entrance, I was amazed to be fortunate enough to have found an open parking space somewhat near the main entrance to the ER and slickly wheeled into that open parking space. I figured, okay, well, they're going to check me out and probably give me a prescription to be filled in the morning. This was around 9 p.m. on Monday, August 29th, 2022. And little did I realize as I locked my truck up that this will be the last time I will be driving my truck until April 9th, 2023, which was about a month ago. Now, in the emergency room at Altoona, Pennsylvania's UPMC hospital, I turned in the folder of the information the doctor at Nason Hospital gave me and was instructed to hang out in the waiting area. Well, there wasn't too big of a crowd in there that evening, which kind of went against the reports I've heard that it was always a complete nut house in there and expect at least a 5-hour wait until you're even looked at. There were a few people moaning and groaning their ailments, and I did my best not to pay that much attention to them. Now, I struck up a conversation with a woman sitting near me there who had traveled with her husband 50 miles to the Altoona UPMC hospital. He was having some sort of reaction to a heart operation he recently had there. And she seemed really nice to talk to and actually turned out to be a normal person, a rarity in a city hospital ER waiting room at that time of night. Now, while I was waiting and talking to this lady, my wife and daughter were regularly texting with me by cell phone to find out what was going on. And about 2 hours later, the hospital staff finally called me in to examine me. The ER doctor was a young man, and he was staring intently at the folder of the information the Nason Hospital doctor sent, like he had never read such information before. He then asked me what the Nason doctor said to me. And I told him, well, I was only told to tell you that I have what's known as a peripheral arterial disease with an ischemic limb. The young ER doctor then curiously asked me, do you know what that is? And I replied, well, no, I don't. So he said, ischemic limb is the result of a form of blockage of arteries in the lower extremities of one's body. It's kind of a serious byproduct of peripheral arterial disease. So I'm like, well, okay, so what's all that mean? And he deeply inhaled and told me, well, basically what this means is that you have a very serious condition here. Blockages in your veins somewhere from your left knee downwards through your lower leg and probably including your foot. The vascular department here will have to find these blockages and remove them in order for you to once again have normal blood flow through your entire leg to your foot. And we're going to have to admit you as soon as we can get a bed available. Now, I know I must have had a puzzled look on my face when I asked, well, so I'm not going home tonight? And the young emergency room doctor, who really looked like he just got out of medical school, looked straight at me eye to eye and said, I'm afraid you're probably not going to be going home for quite a while. Now, if you go out and have a seat in the waiting area, we'll be sure to come and get you when we have a bed available for you. So the time when I took a seat in the ER waiting room was around 11 p.m. The local news was just coming on the TV. And no matter how hard I tried watching that TV, I couldn't get my mind off the possibilities of what was going to be happening and what was around the bend. And with all the thinking and pondering I was doing, it was really strange that it never crossed my mind that the life as I once knew it will never be the same again. I did nothing but stare at the floor in deep thought while the local weather forecaster was pleased to tell everybody that the final 2 days of August were going to be sunny and beautiful. So, okay, that's it for Blindsided Part 1. I certainly hope you'll join me again in the very near future when I'll present to you Blindsided Part 2, which is where I continue on what happened after I was admitted to UPMC Altoona Hospital to treat the so-called ischemic limb. So thanks for watching my podcast, and if you want, you can subscribe down below so you won't miss any of the future ones I'll be doing. So until then, see you all later. Bye.